Brilliant. Hello.
Hey, Kelly, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Good, good. So, oh, look, we've got, all right, people flooding in.
We
Excellent.
have.
So this will take a few minutes. Hi, everyone. Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
We were just talking, Kelly and myself, about the fact that the hour had changed, and we were worried that people would get mixed up with the hour and come in late. And I'm sure we'll have some people joining late, or maybe they were here an hour ago. Or
I was going to say late or early.
Yeah. Great. Okay.
Hi there. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all well.
So I think, Kelly, we've got people joining from all over the world.
It might not be morning.
It could be any hour, yeah. So we've got some familiar names I see. Hope you're all keeping well. Okay, great. So I'm sure we'll have a few people joining. Yeah, feel free to use the chat box and the Q&A and say hello and let us know how you are. So I'm Thomas Newman. I'm the CEO of Viva Financial Tuition, and I'm gate crashing Kelly's class. She's allowed me to talk a little bit about the different course options that Viva has. So thank you, Kelly, for that. It's important to mention that this first session in our OCS May 22 course is free. Okay, so we've opened it up to a wide audience. There will be a recording of this session. We'll send it out afterwards so that you can view it again. And the session will run, I think, for about 2 hours. There will be a break at about the halfway mark, 5-10 minute break. There will be time for questions at the end. So there'll be 15-20 minutes that Kelly will make available at the end to answer any of your questions. And let me see. I'll be kind of popping in and out after this first 15 minutes to keep an eye on things, so I can address any kind of more administrative questions or questions about maybe the price of courses and the different course options. Kelly will handle the content, let's say, of the OCS. So Kelly's your course tutor for this entire course, and we're delighted to have her back again. She's a Viva regular now at this point, and students are very, very, very fond of her, and we are too. So you're in great hands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the different course options that Viva has, because this is the first session, and it's going to last for 2 hours, as I said today. But this is just 2 hours out of about 40 hours for this entire course. We're going to run this course over about 6 weeks, and it's got live webinars. Everything's recorded. It's put up on the website, so you can view it afterwards. We've got mock exams, model solutions, marking for your mocks depending on the course option you go for, and depending again on the course option you go for, a lot of interaction with your tutor. We also have a community that we're very excited to announce as well, where you can go and interact with fellow students and interact with your tutor too. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Let me see. Okay. Okay. So I suppose the first thing to mention is that a number of you, I suppose, are thinking about whether you need a course or not. I know a lot of students go their own way, and they decide they're just going to self-study, and that's fine. But I think there are very, very solid reasons to actually pursue a course. A lot of students, I think, find out quite late on that they really would have been better off taking a course. A course gives you a lot of structure. As I said, this is a 6-week course. There's a full syllabus there to lean on. You're tapping in, obviously, to your tutor's know-how. Not only that, but you're tapping into other students' know-how, and very often students will point things out that we ourselves, for example, have not seen. So you can really learn from your fellow students. And it's just more motivating to take a course with others as well. This is a hybrid course, so it's got live elements, for a lot of the classes that we do, but also there's a big library of content that you can refer to that's kind of already been recorded. So it's got a nice mix of both. If you can't attend any of the live sessions, don't worry. They're recorded. They're put up on the website the next day. So that's great. And it's just more interesting to pursue a course, far more interesting than putting your head down on your own and just pursuing it yourself. So all in all, it just makes the whole thing more enjoyable, less painful, and above all, it increases your chances of passing. Okay, so we've consistently seen that students who take courses versus students who go it alone, the people who take the courses have much higher pass rates. That's the long and the short of it. And secondly, you know, there are lots of courses out there. Some of you may be familiar with Viva Financial Tuition, some of you may not be. Why would you pursue a course with Viva Financial Tuition? Well, we think there are very solid reasons to do so. First of all, you know, we've helped about, I think, 8,000 or so students over the last 5 years with their CIMA qualification. We've helped them pass their exams. We're absolutely case study focused. So I would say that's our big strength. And, you know, we've helped a lot of different students over the years. We've had world prize winners. We've had students, you know, who are facing very challenging personal circumstances or very challenging local circumstances. And we've got, you know, people who are combining this qualification with very challenging jobs, with family lives, etc. We've seen it all, okay? And we've helped different types of students over the years. Here we've one such example, Andrew Sherwood, who was #1 in the world a little while ago with a very high score. Is highly complimentary of the course content that Viva put together. So over the years, we've analyzed about 50 more, actually, I think at this stage, cases from top to bottom. So we're very experienced at this. We've helped, as I said, about 8,000 students pass their exams in that time period. We've a very high student satisfaction score. We keep a close eye on that. We really listen to what our students have to say after every course. We're always trying to incorporate their best suggestions. And our most recent score from our students is 4.9 out of 5. Okay, so very satisfactory indeed. If you want to go along to our Facebook group, you can check that score out. You'll see lots of reviews there. There are lots of testimonials on the website too, so I would encourage you to go along and check out what other students are saying, because that's really what counts. I can tell you all day long that Viva has great courses, but what really matters is what other students who have done courses with Viva actually say about us. We are CIMA specialists, so we've started out with CIMA. That's been our thing all these past 5 years. And as I said, we're very practiced at that too. We were born online. So obviously with the pandemic, all tuition providers started to move online 2 years ago, but we started 5 years ago, and from day one we were online. So that's our natural environment. And what that has allowed us to do really is to keep costs much lower than other tuition providers. And that then translates to much lower prices, which we pass on to our students. So if you compare our price points with other, you know, traditional tuition providers, what you're going to see is that our price points are very competitive indeed. Okay, important to mention as well that, you know, we're a CIMA approved tuition provider. Not only that, but in 2020, we received a very prestigious award, the CIMA Global Pass Rate Excellence Award. So there were only 6 tuition providers worldwide who received this award, which showed that their courses were getting students to exceed global pass rates on average across the world. So we joined a list including Kaplan, BPP, First Intuition, HTFT, and Wisdom Business Academy. So, you know, we were keeping good company there. And as I said, price points for Viva much lower. So we were very proud to join that list. Okay, so, you know, they're the reasons I think for thinking about taking a course, actually paying for a course. I know that we're facing an economically uncertain time, but an investment in your own education is one of the best, if not the best investment I think that you can make. And as I said, it's really going to improve your chances of passing. Okay, look, what I'm going to do now is just to flip over to the a rundown of your different course options. So there are a few options that you can take if you're going to. I just want to make sure that my screen is actually being shared now, because I'm getting a message there that it was paused. Okay, I think we're back. Okay, so I'll send you this link afterwards. I'll pop it in the chat box too. So this is the main OCS course description, the course page that we have at vivatuition.com. As I said, there are about 40 plus hours of course content in total for this particular course, for the most complete option, the elite course, which I'll talk about in a minute. 3 mock exams based on this pre-scene with model solutions. There is professional marking included in one of the course options, which is the elite course, the most complete course. You've got live webinars, you've got live workshops, you have access to on-demand lectures. And if you go for the elite course option, you're going to have a lot of access to Kelly. You'll have calls with Kelly. You will have access to her on a forum, a private forum for elite course students. And yeah, here's the course syllabus. Okay, as I said, about 6 weeks, 7 actually, if you include the pre-course work, which we recommend that you go through. Okay, so this is a series of recordings reviewing the main theories from E1, the main theories from F1, the main theories from P1. So that's a great way to start. Go back and review those main theories. And there are questions included there as well. Then there's a series of videos on how to actually prepare for the case, you know, what your role is as a finance officer, what you're expected to do, how do you apply theory to score high marks. Then there is another series of videos on the strategy you take on the day of the exam. So you get into the exam. First of all, you need to know, what is the examiner actually looking for? What's the best way to manage your time, and how to avoid some very basic mistakes that a lot of students actually make. So very useful series of videos there. And we're in the process of uploading this introduction to the OCS. Okay, so this is a webinar we ran recently, and we'll be uploading it, I think, on Monday to this section of the course, where for those of you who are not that familiar with the OCS and you want to see what the actual exam looks like, we have a former prize winner walk you through that. Okay, so that's the pre-course part of the course. Very worthwhile going through that. And from week 1, well, it's starting today. Okay, so you've got this live session today. We're covering the first half of the pre-scene. This is live, it's recorded, it'll last 2 hours. Then tomorrow, March the 28th, at 6 o'clock UK time, Kelly will be continuing with the course, industry analysis, okay, talking about the real world industry. Important to mention that from this point on, you can only attend if you're actually paying for a Viva course. So if you're an all access member, if you have the OCS standard course, or if you have the OCS elite course, you can participate from tomorrow onwards, okay? And I'll talk about what those 3 options entail in a minute. So the industry analysis tomorrow. Then the day after, you've got, if you're an elite course student, okay, there is a live 60-minute call with Kelly, no pressure environment, very, very informal, just have a chat about, you know, what your own, you know, background is, maybe what your worries are, what you think initially of the OCS, etc. That evening then, Kelly will be doing the second half of the pre-scene, so covering the financial ratios and analysis, looking at the articles at the end of the pre-scene, etc. And towards the end of the week then, another elite course only workshop. So very, very exam focused sessions, these elite course workshops, a detailed overview of the exam and the marking process. So very useful indeed. And then into week 2, first mock exam, crucial. Okay, so we encourage students to start actually trying to do the mock exams early on in the course, even if you don't feel ready, and almost nobody will feel ready to do the first mock exam. You want to be making your mistakes in the mock exams, in the trials, okay, so that you're not making them on the day of the exam. And there are model solutions that you can look at after you've taken the mock exam. So that's a 3-hour, you know, mock exam. It's you know, it's On the Viva platform, it's meant to mimic the real world experience that you would have on the day of the exam. So very, very realistic. At the end of the second week, then you have your second elite course, 2-hour workshop. How do you apply theory and how do you generate answer ideas? So all of these workshops are very exam focused, very, very practical. Week 3 then, you've got 3 webinars coming up, 2 hours each, that take the main theories from E1, F1 and P1, and they apply them to the pre-scene. So highly practical. So they remind you of, okay, here are 4 key E1 theories that we think are very, very important in the context of this pre-scene. Pay special attention to these. A reminder of what the theories actually are. And this is where in the pre-scene this theory applies. And here's a likely question that could come up in this particular theory. And here's how you would answer it. So students love these sessions. They're really, really practical. At the end of this week then, mock exam 2. Okay, you should be feeling a little bit more ready to take on the second mock, but you're still likely to feel not quite ready. Okay, but that's no problem. Week 4 then, the next elite course workshop, 2 hours spent reviewing mock 1. Okay, so Kelly's going to dive into mock 1, run through each of the sections, all the questions, talk about the model solutions, what could you have done better, what could you, what was giving you most difficulty, etc., etc. So really, really important, this mock debrief session. And towards the end of this week, then you have the second mock review, okay, with Kelly. Again, another 2-hour workshop with her in which you take apart that second mock. Into week 5, then you've got a key issues live webinar. This is where Kelly will take 10 of the top issues related to the case, sum things up then with an overview of those 10 issues, where they're occurring in the pre-scene, what kind of question you might get on the day of the exam, and what kind of theories you could apply on the day of the exam to answer these questions. Then you're expected to take mock 3, the final mock exam in this course. And at the end of the week, then you'll have a review of mock 3 with Kelly. And into the final week, then quite a short one, there will be one more call with Kelly for the elite course students, very informal, to just work through some last minute doubts, etc. And then you've got one more workshop for the elite course students, 2 hours long, and final recommendations from Kelly. So it's a really, really complete course, adding up all of the elements. You know, you've got live webinars, you've got the Viva platform, which I'll show you in a minute. You know, you've got mock exams based on this pre-scene with model solutions. You've got live workshops for the elite course students with Kelly, 12 hours of those, very exam focused. And for the elite course students as well, you'll be able to interact with Kelly on an ongoing basis on our community. And I'll show you that in a minute. Okay. So Kelly, very experienced CIMA tutor. She worked at Kaplan for 16 years. You know, she's been doing our OCS course for some time now. Our students love her and they speak very, very highly of her. So one of our recent students, there's a quote from her there. Kelly's been really supportive. OCS tutor, responded to my emails promptly. She was always there to provide guidance. I felt much more confident going into the exam. Okay, so you're in safe hands, as I said before. Okay, so there are three good options to participate in the course. Okay, and I'll talk you through them now. So there's a basic course option, which is the OCS standard course. Okay, and this costs £149. It's very competitively priced. It's a really good course. Okay, it includes all of these things here. So you get access to the live webinars. Okay, so that would be the pre-scene analysis first half today, the pre-scene analysis second half in 2 days' time, the industry analysis webinar, and the E1, F1, and P1 applied webinars, the key issues webinar. You also get 3 mock exams with model solutions. However, you do not get marking included as part of the standard course. Okay, you get an annotated pre-scene, you get annotated financial statements and ratios. You get access to all of the pre-course content. So the exam day strategy, the OCS preparation, the quick review of E1, F1, and P1. You also get access to the student section of our community. Okay, so that's where students can talk amongst themselves about the case. So that's really useful. However, you do not get access to the tutor forums where you're interacting with Kelly on the community. So that's one option. It's a nice option if you're looking for something that's quite hands-off and you're happy to just kind of work away mostly yourself, although you will be able to attend these live webinars and ask questions at the end. The premium offer really is the OCS Elite course. Okay, so this is our best OCS Elite course. This is our best OCS offering. Okay, so if you are a student who has perhaps struggled with the OCS before, maybe you failed before, if you're a student who is really looking to score highly, if you're a student who is looking for a lot of support on this course, this is the best option. Okay. So you'll notice that the price point is obviously higher, £499. We recognize that that is, you know, a significant amount of money. However, it's worth mentioning that for comparable courses by other tuition providers, this is a much, much lower price point. So typically we see courses like this with this level of detail and support from your tutor. Typically we see these retail for £800, £900, £1,000, okay? As I said, Viva is able to keep a lower price point because we're online. We have a small team and we run a tight ship, basically. We're able to pass on cost savings in the form of those lower prices. So look, you have everything that's included in the standard course, but you have all of these additional elements. You have 12 hours of additional live workshops with Kelly. They're highly interactive sessions, very exam focused. Crucially, you have marking for each of your 3 mock exams. So a tutor is correcting and giving feedback on your mock exams. You have access to Kelly in very informal, intimate office hour calls. You have those mock debrief sessions included in the live tutor workshops, and you have access to her via email at any time, and you have access to Kelly on our community. There's a private forum for interaction with Kelly where you can discuss the case in detail. Okay, so it's important to mention also with this, some of you will be worrying about a pass guarantee. What if I fail in May? Any course option that you get here is going to run until the end of August. So the August case is going to be the same. The exam in August is based on the same pre-scene. So any work you do now is going to be relevant for August. So if, and we don't think you should, but if you fail in May, you have that reassurance where you can continue to get access through for the August round, and you can sit the August exam and use these materials until the end of August. Okay, so these are both great options. Now there is a third option that is actually our most popular, and it will become clear why it is our most popular offer. It's called All Access, and it's a different kind of thing. It's All Access membership for 365 days. So from now, it would take you through to the 26th of March 2023, okay? And what this does is not only gives you access to the OCS standard course, which is this one here, okay? But it also gives you access to all of these other courses, all right? E1, P1, F1, MCS, SCS, E2, F2, P2, E3, F3, and P3. So this is great if you're looking for a value offer. It actually works out, you know, it's £399 standard price. So that works out at just £34 per course when you divide it by those 12 courses. Probably in 365 days, you're not going to be able to work through the entire CIMA qualification. However, we have seen students actually do that. There are some people who've done that. And certainly there are students who work through 1 level or even 2 levels in a year. So what this does is allow you to do that, work very quickly through the qualification. And it's really, really good value, okay? So let's say you pass the OCS, you go right into the next level. You can go into the E2, F2, and P2 courses, then sit the MCS in August, November, and then move into the strategic level, okay? And same again, it takes you through to November, February. So this is our high value offer. It's great, okay? It's a really nice option. Again, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more hands-off. However, you know, this doesn't include these elements that you get with the elite course, okay?
Thomas, can I So,
Yes.
sorry, Thomas. We've just had a question just regarding whether or not students can upgrade from the all access to the elite course for this.
Absolutely. So, you know, all access students are absolutely free to join the elite course. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that we're actually going to run some offers for the next 48 hours. So what we're going to do is with the elite course, there is a one-time fee here of $499. What we're going to do for the next 48 hours is we're going to allow students to actually pay this over installments. So what I'll do is I'll provide a link to those of you who are interested in taking the elite course, and you can book your place on the elite course for just £99. Okay, so you pay the £99 deposit now. That books your place in the course, and the remaining £400 you pay over the next few months. Now, that depends on the student, but maybe you want to pay in the 400 balance in 1 month. Maybe you want to pay it over 2 months, 3 months. You can pay it over up to 6 months. Okay, so that's a nice option. So if you want to participate, you can pay £99 deposit today, and the remaining £400 start in 1 month time, monthly installments over 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, up to 6 months. You just let us know what you want to do. So that's the elite course offer, special offer. For those of you who are interested in taking all access, we're going to drop the price from £399 to £299 for the next 48 hours. Okay, so I'll send you links to both after this. I'll pop them into the chat box as well. There's no offer on the standard course. Okay, so it's still great value. Okay, £149. It's a really, really good course option too. So I hope that's clear. Feel free to drop, any doubts you have into the chat box, or you can send us an email at info@vivatuition.com after this as well, and we're happy to answer your questions. I'll send this course page. Check it out. Go through it in your own time. There's lots of information there too. So just a couple of other things. I mentioned the community, for example. So this is the Viva community. It works much like a Facebook group or something like that, but of course it's a lot of people are worried about using Facebook for privacy concerns and things nowadays. So this is more a closed environment, and everything is kept nice and safe, and it's really great. Okay, so this is just brand new, so come along, get active. It's a great way to interact with other students. It's a great way to interact with your tutor if you're on the elite course. If you're an all access student, what you'll do is you'll get access to all of these different courses, all of these groups, okay, all of these objective test groups, and you'll get access to the basic OCS spaces. So the OCS discussion for students, the OCS webinars here with links to the different webinars. And if you're an all access student, you'd also get access to the MCS, similar groups there, and SCS and the different objective tests here, the channels. Now, if you're an elite course student, you're taking the OCS elite course, you get access to everything, all of these spaces in the OCS area. Okay, so there's the general kind of student discussion thread. You get access obviously to all of the OCS webinars. Crucially, you get access to the OCS tutor thoughts section. So this is where Kelly's going to be very active, posting different queries and posting ideas here and interacting with students and resolving their doubts in this forum. There will also be a chat functionality that we open up for the elite course students for an ongoing chat with their tutor. And elite course students will also get access to this section, the OCS workshops and office hours section. So this is a really nice way to go beyond the classes to get your answers, get answers to your questions and to share your know-how with other people as well. And this is the student area. So once you log into your account, these are the videos I've been talking about, the different, this is the pre-course work in the foundational materials area, the E1 review, the F1 review, different questions and videos, etc. here. And these are all the live webinars that will be taking place. Here's today's, where you can register for these different sessions. Okay, the industry analysis, E1 applied, F1 applied, P1 applied, etc. Here are the 3 mock exams. They're all up already. Okay. The model solutions are coming soon. And we'll be uploading all of the content to the different areas of the core materials area as the course progresses. So pre-scene analysis, industry analysis, and the different options here. The last 2 are only for the elite course. Okay, so the workshops and office hours that we have in the elite course. Okay, so they're the options that we have for continuing with Viva. They're all good options. Okay, it just depends on what you need. I think that's about it. Let me see. I'll just share one more slide, and then I'm going to hand over to Kelly. So what are the next steps then? So, if you want to take the all access option, you've taken the first step, which is to register for this webinar, which is free. I'll send you a link to purchase all access at a discount of $299. It's usually $399. And what will happen then is you'll receive an email from Viva with all of the links to the remaining live webinars. Okay, you'll get access to the mock exams, etc. And if you have any doubts, please email us at info@vivatuition.com. If you want to take the elite course option, you can book your place today by paying a £99 deposit. Okay, that will book your place, and then you don't have to worry about the remaining £400 until next month, where you can spread that £400 balance over up to 6 months. Then you'll get an email when you've booked your place with the deposit from Viva with the live workshops with Kelly, the remaining live webinars, the access to the private community, and a terms and conditions sheet for signature. Okay. Again, if you have doubts, please email us at info@vivatuition.com, or just pop your questions into the chat. And I think that's me. I'm going to stop now, and I'm going to hand back to Kelly. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoy today's session with Kelly. Kelly, it's all yours. I'll be keeping an eye on things, and I'll be pottering around in the background, but I'll jump into the chat from time to time.
Wonderful. Thank you ever so much, Thomas. And guys, I hope you found that quite useful. Just a bit of an insight really into what Viva Tuition can actually offer you in terms of support with the upcoming operational case study. As Thomas quite rightly said then, this is hot off the press. So we are now going to have a look at the pre-scene in relation to your operational case study for the May sitting and also the August sitting as well. You may or may not have had the opportunity to actually review the pre-scene, because obviously it only came out very, very recently, but I'm going to try and give you a bit of insight into the sort of key areas in relation to this particular case. Now, as we said, we're going to work through the pre-scene, but at the end of the session, we are going to have time to have a bit of a Q&A. So if you can just save your questions until the end, that would be absolutely fantastic. That would be greatly, greatly appreciated. But as I said, if you've got questions as we're going through, pop them into that chat panel and we'll then review them as we go through. Thomas is going to be on hand to dip in and out of that chat panel, but also at the end of today's session, I'll be able to go through those questions with you. Okay then, guys, right, so let's get started then, and let's have a look at the pre-scene for the upcoming operational case study exams. You may or may not be aware that we are going to be in a position where we are looking at the pre-scene in relation to meals at home. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen then with you guys. And as I said, if you've got any questions, please do make sure that you are letting us know about those questions as we run through. Okay then, guys, right, so first things first then, obviously you've got access to your pre-scene now. What we've done is we've spent some time actually running through that pre-scene and giving you a bit of an insight into what the examiners might be thinking in terms of content. As I've said, you may or may not have downloaded this at this particular point in time, but I would absolutely strongly recommend that following today's session that you do get access to this pre-scene. Okay then, so first things first then, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with an organisation called Meals at Home. Now, you guys will need to make sure over the next few weeks that you fully immerse yourself in this organisation. You need to start approaching this pre-scene as if you work for this organisation. That is absolutely imperative as we're going through this. So completely immerse yourself in Meals at Home is what I would say. Now, with reference to the pre-scene then, just want to mention the first statement, which is included in the pre-scene. Obviously, we've had over the last couple of years, very sort of turbulent situations that we've got to deal with in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic. The key thing to remember when it comes to this operational case study is that, yes, you know, valid marks will be given for arguments in relation to COVID-19, but ultimately, this is set in an environment where, you know, COVID-19 doesn't exist. And so in that sense, guys, don't focus too much is what I would say in relation to the obviously pandemic in here. So just bear that in mind as we're going through. It's one of those worlds where the pandemic doesn't exist. Okay, then now you'll see in terms of your pre-scene, then you've got your standard content in there. Please do not let this put you off, is what I would say. You know, in terms of your content in here, you'll see that there's quite a lot. And there's quite a lot of information in there. So you've got, you know, 27 pages of pre-scene information that you're going to have to absorb and fully immerse yourself in. You'll see in here, though, that there's lots of different types of pre-scene information that you've got available to you. So we've got some information which comes from Meals at Home's own website. You've got a lot of information about the setup of the organisation, you know, what the production processes are, who the directors are of the organisation. But what you've also got in here, guys, is you've got some information about the industry. You've got some information about some documentation which has come out. You've got some articles in there, and you've also got some information about the tax regime in the country in which Meals at Home actually operate. So it's quite large in terms of coverage. It is probably the key thing to mention. Now, do not be overwhelmed by this. It is what I would say. This information here is to help you. Okay, so I would suggest after today, after the other sessions that you might have, that it's going to be important for you to really do spend quite a lot of time actually running through the content of the pre-scene information. Okay, then guys, let's get started then with reference to this. Okay, so who are you? Now, this is the role, this is the hat that you are going to have to put on in relation to this pre-scene. This is who you are. And it's really important that you appreciate this is your role, this is the hat that you're going to have to put on so that you're pitching your responses in the right way in the exam. And that's going to be absolutely imperative as you go through your journey in relation to operational case study. So let's just think about who we are. So we are a finance officer in here. That's where we sit in the hierarchy of the organisation. We are a finance officer who works in the finance department of Meals at Home. Now, you'll see more about this as we go through, but you have got some really good real world examples in relation to this. And I would strongly recommend that you do some research in relation to these areas. It just adds a bit of colour to your revision in relation to your operational case study. So prime examples are organisations such as HelloFresh, Gusto and Blue Apron as well. Now, there's many more actually out there, but those are prime examples of a real world examples of this type of organisation. Okay, so what's your role? You are a management accountant in here. You're involved with the preparation of management accounting information, but you also help managers with the decision-making process. Now, you don't make the decisions. What you're there for is to provide information to those managers so that they can make decisions themselves. Now, we have to be careful here. Remember what I said about pitching at the right level. Remember, you are a finance officer in here. So you're not going to be making the strategic decisions of the organisation. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be providing the tools to help support the managers of the organisation. So that's your role. You're not going to be making these strategic decisions. You're there to support. Okay, so we're going to be involved in the preparation of management accounting information. However, we're also advised that we're there to assist with the preparation of financial statements as well. So there's no getting away from the F1 content in here in relation to your operational case study. You still need to be mindful of things like your accounting standards or the conceptual framework in relation to financial reporting. So you are going to be sort of dipping your toe in there and actually getting involved in that process as well. So let's just take a step back and let's just reflect on this. So what type of thing or things are you going to be involved in here? So what is your role? What are your areas of responsibility? So one, you're going to have this short-term focus. You're going to be helping with the shorter-term decisions of the organisation. You're going to be looking at costing information. So thinking about the different types of costing techniques, activity-based costing, total absorption costing in there, not forgetting digital costing as well. A really, really hot topic when it comes to operational case study. You're going to be involved in budget setting. You're going to be looking at the variances in relation to those budgets and also thinking about, again, short-term focus, working capital. So the working capital of the organisation as well. Now, part and parcel of the working capital then is thinking about cash management. So thinking about the cash management process and making sure that you've got appropriate resources available to you. We're looking at risks and we're thinking about tools, techniques that we can use to sort of minimize the risk associated with those short-term decisions. And we're also going to be involved in helping to support the financial statements prep at the end of an accounting period. So that just gives you a bit of a snapshot really of your areas of responsibility and the areas that you're going to be actively involved in. And hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight into the types of questions that you're going to get or tasks that you're going to get in your operational case study exam. Now, something that we can't shy away from is the fact that when you are supplying advice and supplying support to your managers in here, we must make sure that we are thinking about the CIMA Code of Ethics. Okay, absolutely key in here. So any advice, any support that you actually offer needs to be in line with the CIMA Code of Ethics. That is absolutely key. And we do see that sort of raising its head quite a lot when it comes to these particular exams. Okay, so that's who you are. That's your role. That's the hat you've got to put on. That is the level that you're going to be pitching your responses in relation to this particular case. Okay, let's move on then. And let's have a look at a bit of the background in relation to this then. So who are we? Who is Meals at Home then in relation to this? Well, ultimately, Meals at Home are an organisation that sells meal kits. Now, in terms of these meal kits then, these are sent directly to our customers and they get these through a digital subscription service. Now, that's really quite useful if you think about it, because if we've got this digital subscription service, then what we've got in here is we've got reoccurring revenues. Now, that's going to be really useful, isn't it, if you think about it, because you're going to be able to predict what our revenues are going to be in future periods based on the fact that you've got these subscriptions that your customers are actually signing up to in that sense. Now, with reference to these meal kits then, let's get into a bit more detail. They include ingredients for a single meal for a set number of portions in here. And we're going to go through a little bit more detail in relation to that. Now, not only do we get these meals, but we also get the recipe cards associated with that as well. So those recipe cards do provide us with some information about how we're going to prepare and how we're going to cook the meals at home, hence the name Meals at Home. Now, based on where we are actually located, we are in a country which is called Newland, and that country is in Europe. Now, with reference to this, what you've got to be mindful of then is the sort of demographic that we've got in Europe. And we are in a position then where we've got relatively high levels of discretionary expenditure in relation to your customer base. Now, what you've got to appreciate in here is that that's really important when it comes to dealing with meals at home. Because if you like, this is quite a sort of niche area, quite specialized area. So we need to make sure that the demographic of our customer base can obviously afford that luxury, if you like, associated with these meal kits. Bit of detail then about background, always quite interesting. You know, meals at home has been around for quite a while. In here. It was founded in 2012. Two friends, Ben and Ravi. You're going to get to know Ben and Ravi a little bit more as we go through. These were both young professionals. Ben was in marketing, Ravi was in IT. Now, they found because they were working lots and lots of hours that they were eating convenience foods. They were eating a lot of takeaways. Now, they both really did have a keen interest in healthy eating. They had a keen interest in cooking, but they just didn't have the time to do that themselves. So this is all about convenience. That's the key thing. So we need to make sure that we're thinking about the convenience associated with these meals at home, whilst also remaining healthy as well. So one of the key areas then for Ben and Ravi is the fact that, you know, they were previously impressed by the fact that there was very limited variety of meals actually available, and they weren't too happy about the quality of the ingredients. Now, that's a biggie. Yeah, the quality of the ingredients, absolutely imperative for Ben and Ravi in here. You know, so this is something that they're obviously wanting to build into meals at home in this situation. So it's really important that it's convenient, but it's also really important that these meals that they're actually supplying are also healthy as well. Okay, now what did they do? So in 2012 then, they brought in Henry, and Henry was an experienced chef and actually helped to develop the recipes that they've got. Now, as you can see in my notes there, this is very, very similar to the story associated with Gusto, thinking again about the real world in here. So what did they do? They developed some recipes. They developed 20 different recipes, and they set up this subscription service in here. Now let's look at the first year. They actually started in January 2013. So we obviously had, 12 months or so of development. But in the first year of trading, look at that. They actually made $4.5 million in terms of revenue. Now, remember, that's revenue. It's not profit. Okay, so we're going to come on to that in due course. But I think you'll agree, pretty impressive in terms of the first years of trading. Okay, now what's happened? They've grown, significantly since 2013. So from 2016 then, the company sold the meal kits throughout Newland. In December last year, so 2021, the revenue was $62.5 million. However, notice they made a loss. So they made a loss of $3.7 million in there. I don't want you to be too concerned about that though, for this business. I appreciate that they've been trading, for 7-8 years at that point in time, but this is pretty common in the actual industry itself. As we've said there in your notes, this is very similar to Gusto. They have only recently posted profit, and that's really common, really common with tech-based startups. So again, I don't want you to be too concerned about that, but it's something to be mindful of as we're running through. Okay, so as I said then, we made operating losses. Look at what's going to happen in 2022 though. We're going to go to a position of profit in terms of our predictions as an organisation. So we're looking at an operating profit of $2.1 million in terms of our operating profit. Now, something to just note in here, guys, is that we are in a situation where we are selling these kits throughout Newland as it currently stands at the moment. In terms of potential for the exam, think about expansion. You know, this is something that could quite easily be scaled up if you think about it. This is something that could be scaled up, and you could well be in a situation where you expand outside of Newland. Again, you're going to have to help support that decision-making process in there. Now, the other thing to note is we're going from a loss-making situation to a profit-making situation. Key thing here, guys, is that something we're going to really have to keep an eye on in 2022 is managing costs. If you think about it, you know, it's going to be absolutely imperative from a costing perspective that we really do keep an eye on our costs to actually get to the point where we're generating that profit. Now, how have we got there? We've got there through investments. We've had venture capitalists, we've had business angels actually helping us to develop and to support the organisation as we've got to that particular point. Okay, so what's our aim? We're aiming to provide good quality ingredients then with clear recipes to actually help our consumers to eat healthily and actually make these nutritious meals from scratch. What you quite often find then in this particular industry is you quite often find that these organisations have got a bit of a niche. And the niche here for meals at home is that we're going to provide healthy, nutritious meals. That's our key marketing tool, if you think about it. Yeah. Now, companies then, they aim to actually produce these kits and provide the information in the recipes. And basically they're saying, look, these are going to take you a maximum of 45 minutes to prepare. The other thing to note as well is each of the recipes is calorie counted as well. So again, it's focusing on this niche that I mentioned to you before about healthy meals. Yeah, healthy, convenient meals. One of the things that they've mentioned there is that they're going to have low carbohydrate content, but they're going to have a really high nutritional value in there as well. Okay, now let's just think about this practically. Our niche here is healthy, nutritious meals. Let's just think about that particular industry. Let's just take a step back from this for a moment. There is real opportunities in here, real opportunities for us to potentially link with organizations which are, you know, health focused in that sense. So think about things like MyFitnessPal. You know, you've got the app there in terms of MyFitnessPal. Is there any way that we can have some sort of links with MyFitnessPal or other alternative apps that might be available? So again, just think about those relationships that we might be able to nurture as an organization. Okay, so where are we? We're located 40 kilometers outside Newland's capital city. And that's where our head office actually is. And this is also the location of our development kitchens as well. This is where, you know, we've got Henry on hand, and Henry's there to help develop and test the meals. Within 5 kilometers of our head office, so pretty local in the scheme of things, we've got our production facility. Now, in our production facility, then, this is where we box everything up. This is where we assemble everything before it's actually sent on to our consumers in that sense. Now, look at that final paragraph. This is a really hot topic for operational case study, sustainability. You know, Ben and Rafi really are concerned about sustainability, and that's what's at the heart of the organisation. The key thing in here is that they've actually designed their product to ensure that there's no wastage in here. So what they've done is they've actually produced these meal kits for the consumers which only have enough ingredients to ensure that the consumers can fulfill the actual meal specifications in here. And as we said, that's going to reduce food wastage as well. Also as well, pretty savvy from Ben and Ravi's perspective, because of the fact that actually they're only putting in the products, the materials that are required for the consumer. So they've actually got less wastage as well. So from a cost perspective, again, that in itself is pretty appropriate for this organization. Now, the other thing to note in here, thinking sustainability, all of their ingredients are ethically sourced as well. Look at the notes there. Lots of information about food kilometers in here. So there's a lot of information about sustainability and keeping things local. Now, key thing to remember in here is that as an organization, we're currently in Newland, we might think about diversifying. We might think about moving into a new location. This is also going to be really important for them in these new locations as well. So thinking about ethically sourced ingredients from the local community as well. Key thing there, guys, is something that we see a lot in operational case study is the situation regarding new suppliers. So what you might have to do is think about, getting these new suppliers, making sure that they meet these credentials in terms of ethically sourcing, thinking about the fact that they have to be local as well. But you need to make sure that you're in a situation where you're able to assess the actual supplier themselves. So you might have to think about how you would select a supplier and on what basis you would actually use that. Now, one final thing then with reference to sustainability, and they mention it here, and it's mentioned a few times actually in the pre-scene, it's about packaging. Okay, that's such a hot topic, isn't it, in the real world as it currently stands at the minute. They're really, really concerned about the amount of packaging that they use and the distribution methods that are used to deliver these products to the consumers. So what we're thinking there is about packaging, but we're also thinking about logistics as well. So remember, sustainability is at the heart of this particular organization. So from an operational case study perspective, think to yourself, sustainability, think corporate and social responsibility as well. This is absolutely imperative for this organization. That's what they pride themselves on in terms of what they do as a good corporate citizen in here. So think corporate and social responsibility and how they can improve those sustainability credentials. Think about packaging, think about the material sourcing that they've got in here, and also think about logistics. Think about how they deliver those products to the consumers as well. Okay, right, let's move on then, and let's now have a look at the website. Hopefully you get a bit of a feel for this organization now. So let's have a look at the website then. Why choose them? Why choose Meals at Home? So let's have a look at the detail. It's a subscription service that we've got in here. With reference to this then, you as a consumer will sign up to receive meal kits. Those meal kits then will either be once a week, once a fortnight, or once a month in here. You're then told that you can choose two sizes. You can have the small size, 2 portions, and you can have the large size, which is maximum of 4 portions in there. And you have the option in here to purchase 2, 3, or 4 different meals in your actual kits itself. Now, take a step back from this. Think about P1. Variance analysis is going to be absolutely imperative in here because there's so many different options available in here. And you might find that your consumers are actually substituting these different packages in here as well. So, a lot of these different options could massively have an impact in terms of the influence that it has on your variances. Now, interestingly, that last paragraph there, as a consumer, you have the freedom to cancel, pause, or amend your subscription at any point in time. Now, that's not unusual in this particular industry, and actually retention is pretty low when it comes to these particular package. But at the end of the day, you know, that's the norm, isn't it? As it currently stands at the moment, you know, that's the norm in the industry. It's what we're used to doing now in that sense. So although, you know, the subscription service is great because you can use that to predict what your revenue is going to be, you're going to find that there isn't great retention. It is what I would say with reference to this. Okay, so that's your subscription service. Let's now talk about recipes in here, opportunities, lots of opportunities in here. So what you've got then is you've got 50 meal kits that you can choose from. They specifically mention here vegetarian meal kits. So you've got 20 of those. Interestingly, they don't talk about vegan options in here. They also don't talk about other things to consider. So for example, halal, kosher options, gluten-free options, that's not mentioned in here. Now, what I'm thinking at this point is possibility, opportunity in relation to this. The key thing to note in here is that we do have our own development kitchen in here, and this is opportunities that might well present themselves. So we need to make sure that anything that we move into in terms of development is prepared well and quickly, and it's got high nutritional value as well. As I said, lots of opportunities in here for potential expansion. Ingredients then, we've already talked a lot about ingredients. So you've got this sort of sustainability in relation to our ingredients in here. One of the key things that they note is that we've got great relationships with our suppliers in here. So therefore we are actually getting the best products available to us at this point in time. So we've got the freshest, we've got the best quality ingredients, all of which are sourced locally, which again is absolutely great from a sustainability perspective and from a corporate and social responsibility perspective as well. We're trying to limit the amount of kilometers or food miles, shall we say, in relation to these products. So we need to make sure that any decisions that we make as an organisation actually take into consideration the sustainability credentials associated with that. So a couple of things then to note, potential exam scenarios in here, sourcing new suppliers, as I said, particularly if we're moving into different industries, or sorry, different locations in particular in here. We might need to think about different types of ingredients, particularly if we're thinking about different options that might well be available to us. So again, sustainability always at the source of everything that we do. In terms of these new suppliers then, think about this from an F1 perspective, guys. Think about, you know, if we source these new suppliers, we need to think about not only the financial implications of that, so agreeing so credit terms, but we also need to think about the non-financial implications as well. So again, as I said, thinking about sustainability is something that we absolutely must take into consideration. Okay, so that's from our website. That's a bit of background about meals at home. It gives us a real good feeling, I think, for the type of organisation that we are working with. Let's now get into the detail in relation to this then. So, you know, how does this work? You know, what's the process in here? Okay, so basically what you do as a consumer is you set up your meals at home account. This is online. Okay, so an online account that you've set up. You're going to provide your name, your address, and also payment details in here. Instantly, I'm thinking big data in here. So this organisation is instantly collecting information about those consumers or those potential consumers in here. So from a digital perspective, it's highly likely that they're going to be using an app, they're going to be using a website in here. So the data is being collected. What are they doing with it in there? So are they mining that data? Once you've got that information in there, then we're going to select the preferences associated with this. And there's 3 preferences. We've got the size, we've got the frequency, and we've also got the ingredient preferences. So vegetarian, fish, meat, whatever the situation might be. Again, all the while in here, thinking big data, we're collecting more and more information about our consumers in here. At the end of the day, all of this information that we're collecting is going to have excellent predictive qualities if you think about it. So I'm thinking here AI, I'm thinking artificial intelligence in here, because what we could probably do from the information that we've collected is we can probably predict what these consumers are going to do in the future. Again, a very, very useful tool. Now, with reference to this, then, as I said, you've got sort of 3 preferences in here. You've got the size of the kit, you've got the frequency, and you've also got your preferences. Is there anything else we could do? It is sort of what I'm thinking about in here. Interestingly, size of meal, small or large, 2 people or 4 people. There's nothing in there for a single person. There's nothing in there for families that might be a lot larger than 4 people. So again, a bit of an opportunity, I think, in here. Frequency of delivery, once a week, once every 2 weeks, or once a month. Again, is there other options that we could possibly take advantage of in there? And again, I've talked already about the preferences. You know, we've got vegetarian, low calorie, fish, no fish, spicy, non-spicy, whatever the situation might be. But again, you know, we have other options in there: vegan, gluten-free, halal, kosher. Not mentioned. It could be mentioned in the exam. You know, this could be an area that we decide to move into. Now, the other interesting thing that I've highlighted here is this information about your meal kits is very much based around, you know, dinner, you know, your main meal of the day. Is there options? Is there options for us to maybe diversify in here? You know, think about breakfast, think about snacks in there, think about lunchtime. There's lots of things that we're not necessarily tapping into at this particular point in time. Okay. The other thing that I find quite interesting and a little bit bizarre actually is that we only have the option for 2, 3 or 4 meals in each of the kits. Interestingly, not 5. You know, so for example, you can't have one every day of the week in here, and you know, 5 days of weekdays. You could have 7 days for the full week in there, and I find that quite interesting because we're assuming that our customers don't want to actually use our recipes for a whole week at a time. Okay, so customer actually logs on through an app, through the website. You're collecting, you're mining this data. They then tell you what the preferences are, and then we get to step 2. So at least 3 days before delivery is due, then consumers will select the meal kits that they want, or they will amend the meal kits, or they will cancel the delivery of the next week in here. Now, something I think that is really interesting in here is if you forget to select your meal kits in here, or if you forget to cancel a delivery, what Meals at Home do is they automatically send you a box. Now, again, I'm going back to what I mentioned before, this information, AI that we're going to take advantage of in here. So we're able to predict what our consumers might want to do based on the information that they've actually inputted into the system. That's quite interesting, isn't it? The fact that they can use AI to actually predict what our consumers might want. Okay, so what am I alluding from this then? Big data is the biggie in relation to this. You know, they're saving customer information. They're using that customer information for the predictive qualities associated with it. It's really important data because we have to take advantage of that. Other considerations then that I've picked out in here. We've talked there about 3 days before. You know, the consumer can select the meals, they can amend, they can cancel. But what happens if they want to cancel after that particular point in time? You know, what happens if the consumers are not at home to actually take acceptance of the delivery of those goods? There's some unanswered questions, is what I'm saying in there. So some things that we need to really consider, some things that we really need to think about from a consumer point of view. Okay, so that's the process. Now, what to expect when you receive your order then? Interestingly, this is what we're going to get as a consumer. First point, again, sustainability at the heart, remember in here. You'll receive a single box. Reduce your packaging. That's the key thing. With everything you need from your meal kits in here. Open up the box then. What you have is you have an inner chill box in which you'll find an eco chill bag. And now I've made a note there. Gusto uses something similar and they call it the eco chill box in there. So you'll find our eco chill bag on top of the meat, fish and dairy ingredients, so the fresh ingredients in here. You have a meal bag for each of the meal kits. That's going to include the sort of non-perishable items. So you've got your tins, you've got your packets, you've got your herbs included in there. And then carefully on top of that, you're going to have your other fresh ingredients in there. So you're going to have short life items. So for example, fruit, veg, that type of thing. Interestingly there, it's placed on top so that it doesn't get spoiled. The other interesting thing is that those items, those short life items, don't have any additional packaging. So we're reducing, for example, the amount of plastic that we might have. And the one thing that I find quite interesting in here, however, is the eco chill bag in there. How sustainable is that? You know, how do we dispose of it? Because there are some issues, I think, associated with the content of those chill bags, but we'll see that as we go through. As you can see here then, it is about fresh ingredients to some degree. Something to possibly consider actually for meals at home might be that they want to think about diversifying. So maybe thinking about options or frozen options in there as well. Okay, so that's what we get as a consumer in there. Let's now just take a second to reflect on that, and hopefully now you've got a real good feel for meals at home and what meals at home actually do. Now let's get under the bonnet of these organisations now, and let's start thinking a bit about the structure and thinking about the hierarchy and thinking about the responsibility areas. Now, as we know, Ben and Ravi, they were the founders of this organisation, and you can see here that they play a very active role still in the organisation. Ben, he's the director of sales and marketing. Makes sense. He was a marketing executive, wasn't he, prior to actually setting up Meals at Home. So that's his role. That's the role that he takes on. He's responsible, therefore, for sales, distribution, and marketing in there. Key thing here, it's a very competitive market, this. So our brand is absolutely one of the most important elements that we need to consider in here. So as an organization, as I said, you know, he's been instrumental in growing and developing that brand and putting that brand in front of the consumers. It's fiercely competitive, this market. So we need to have something that sets us aside from our other competitors. That's absolutely key in here. And again, I'm thinking nutritional, low carbohydrates, healthy, you know, convenient. Those are all things that obviously Ben has been really, really actively involved in. Now, interestingly, he's not quite happy with where we are now because he wants to expand the product base. Makes sense. There's so many additional options available in here, particularly thinking about vegan, halal, kosher, you know, all those different options that might well be available. I like to see that when it comes to the directors, they're thinking about growth. Okay, now what you've got to think is, from an operational case study perspective, that growth is absolutely something that we're going to see with our tasks. Now, you know, if only growth was that straightforward, what you've got to remember here is that there's going to be risks. Yeah, there's going to be risks associated with growth. And therefore, we need to make sure that we're thinking about the tools that Meals at Home could use to minimize risk. You know, we're not going to alleviate it completely, but we're going to minimize the risk associated with these decisions that are potentially going to be made in the future. So let's think about expansion and where they might want to expand. Next then, we've got Ravi. Ravi, remember, again, one of our founders in here. His background was IT. Makes sense, doesn't it, that he is obviously the IT director in here. His responsibility then is the responsibility of the company's IT system. He is the driving force behind the apps and behind the subscription app that we've got. He is very interested. You can see a theme, artificial intelligence in here, and he's very interested in emerging technologies in here. Something to note, P1, digital costing. I've mentioned it to you already, but we need to think about the nature of the different costs associated with things like, you know, actually, how do we develop an app? You know, what are the digital costs associated with that? There's going to be significant investment. And from an investment point of view, think F1, think non-current assets, think about development expenditure potentially in here. So again, we need to think about AI, we need to think about big data, we need to think about investment, we need to think about digital costing, absolutely in here. Henry is still with us, which is nice to see. Remember, Henry was our development director, and he was involved from the get-go in 2013. Remember, this guy is a chef. He's got lots of experience, and he is involved in the development of our products and also the development and testing associated with our recipes. One of the key things that he's really interested in, thank goodness, is the nutritional value associated with food. I've already mentioned this, you know, brand, really, really important for this type of organization. Our brand is based around nutritional content in relation to our recipes, isn't it? So thank goodness that Henry is on board with that. That's our niche. Yeah, that's our niche as an organization. And as we can see here, Henry fully supports that. So he's going to be really involved in the development of that going forward. And then finally, we've got Greta and we've also got Jack. Greta, production director, been with us a while. You know, she's been with us for, 3 years in here since 2018. And obviously our key area is in relation to procurement. So procurement of the ingredients that we're going to be using in our production process. And I'm not sure whether you'll recall, but actually we were told that we've got a really good relationship with our suppliers. It's down to Greta in here, because she's responsible for that procurement in here. Now, she has worked as a senior buyer for a supermarket chain previously. So we'll have lots of links, if you like, in relation to that. One of the key things she prides herself on is sustainability in here. She's a champion of sustainability. So that's going to be obviously part of her credentials when it comes to responsibly sourcing ingredients. Now, we're going to see what Greta's involved in a bit more detail later on, and look at the production process as well. And then finally, we've got Jack. Jack is your finance director. Remember this guy's name because he's your boss at the end of the day. You know, you are a member of finance officer. You're going to be involved in Jack's team. Now, one of the key things then with Jack is he's been with us a while. He's been with us since 2018. He became qualified in 2004. Great. We just need to make sure that Jack is still up to date with his continual professional development. Yeah, from an ethics point of view, we need to make sure that he's still up to speed in terms of his knowledge in here. One of the interesting things then is he has been very active in us securing finance. Now, again, I just want to stress at this point, remember you're a finance officer in here. You know, you're not going to be making decisions which are long-term decisions. You know, you're not going to have to give advice in relation to how to source long-term finance. That's not your job, but you're going to help support Jack in his pursuits of securing future investment in there. So you're going to provide Jack with potentially some information about organizations that you might want to approach. Okay, now, Jack, really important. Organization is not yet profitable. We're expecting a profit this year, 2.1 million $N in there. Bit of a shift. So we're going to really need to sort of use Jack as we're going through this next year and keeping on top of the financial information that's required. Okay. So that's your team, lots of experience in there. Nice to see that they're all on the same page. Sustainability, got those credentials in there, healthy, nutritional, lots of cohesion in terms of their involvement. Okay. Let's have a look at the detail in here then. So this is how we're set up as an organization. So you've got the sales and distribution. We know Ben is one of our founders, and he is our sales and marketing director in here. And from an exam perspective then, think E1, think KPIs with reference to this. That is really common in the operational case study exam. So you're going to have to potentially put forward measures that Ben could use to actually assess the success of this particular department. Looking through then his department in here, you can see that it's nicely broken down. There is a hierarchical structure in here. We've got Jonah in there. Jonah is the manager of our subscription service in there. And he's going to be actively involved. That's what drives the business, isn't it? If you think about it. So, you know, he's going to be using big data to think about things like retention of our consumers. And at the other end of the scale there, we've got Holly. Holly is really involved in distribution. Really important for this organization. Remember, again, I'm talking about sustainability. Again, I feel like I'm repeating myself in here, but we have to think about sustainability from all perspectives, one of which being logistics and how we distribute these boxes to our consumers as well. So we need to just be a little bit careful about what Holly does and what our priority areas actually are. We then got production set up again, KPIs. You know, we need to make sure that we're really comfortable with how we're assessing these particular departments in here. And as I've said, you know, with operational case study, loads of tasks in relation to KPIs, absolutely key. Again, you've got your structure in there. We're going to see more on production a little bit later. This is quite nice though, because it actually gives you a bit of a breakdown in terms of how that structure. You've got a herbs and spices manager, you've got a meal kit bag manager, you've got a box assembly manager in here. Quite a detailed hierarchical structure. And this is your team. Yeah, so you've got Jack there, finance director, strategic direction. We've already talked about that previously, you know, thinking about how we source long-term finance, but then you've got your teams in here. Remember these names. You've got Claire. Claire is the finance manager. Remember that name. She's going to be sending you emails in the exam. You're going to have to help support Claire. It is the key thing really with reference to this. Interestingly, you've got your HR manager in there, Mina. You know, in some organizations, you will find that you've got this sort of matrix structure where actually, you know, your finance director in here is actually responsible for human resources as well. Interestingly, you know, they've got different responsibilities. And that's where you sit. You are a finance officer. You're one of 3 in here. So you're going to have quite a bit of support in the actual team as well. Okay, so remember those names is what I would say. Those are the people that you're going to have sort of direct relationships with in here. Okay, now that's your team. That's how you're structured as an organization. Let's now think about the operations in a bit more detail. Right then, so what do we do? What do we do? How do we do it? It is essentially what we're looking at in here. As we know already, they sell meal kits directly to the customers. As it stands at the minute, only in Newland. Now, interestingly, what I allude from that then is that we don't have any corporate customers in here. So from that perspective, again, that could be an area that we move into. You know, we might move into a sector where we're going to take on corporate customers. So, you know, you might be involved in a hotel chain, for example, that purchases these meal kits from you. The interesting thing with that, however, is if we're working directly with customers, we're not going to be in a situation where we've necessarily got credit terms to deal with in here, because our customers put their bank details in there and they pay it instantly, don't they? When you're dealing with a corporate customer, that's a bit different, because you're probably going to have to offer them credit terms in here. So that might be an area that we've not got that much experience of. So if we do move into sort of that corporate realm, then we're going to have to think about credit terms. We're going to have to think about credit control. We're going to have to think about how we assess those credit customers in here. But again, it is an area of possibility in terms of expansion. We already know what we sell. We sell 2 meal kits, small and large. I think there's real opportunity in there for us to expand. You know, there's no mention of single meal kits, you know. Again, I think that's probably an area that we can exploit as an organization. Maybe that's something that we do is in terms of our sort of niche in there as well. As we said, they don't sell these individual meal kits. Interestingly, look, they tell us that. Trigger in there, thinking, telling me that for a reason. And therefore we need to think about that could be an area that we expand into. You've then got quite a lot of financial information. Please do not get overwhelmed by this. I just want to stress, you don't have to learn these numbers. You don't have to commit these numbers to memory. If there is anything in the exam that they want to present to you, or they want you to discuss in terms of the financials, they will provide you with that information in the exam. So I don't want you to think that you're going to have to learn all of these numbers. It's more about getting a feel for the organization. Now, if you look at this information here, you've got 2 meal kits, 3 meal kits and 4 meal kits in there. What I allude from this is, can you see that the average price per portion does decrease the more meal kits that you purchase? So individual consumers that are buying 4 small meal kits are getting an average price per portion, which is a lot lower. And that does, you know, does reflect, doesn't it, the commercial reality of these situations in here. The other thing I would just say here, though, is there is possibility for substitution in here. So one week, you know, a customer might buy 4 small meals. The next week, they might buy 2 small meals in here. So this in itself is going to have a significant impact on mix and quantity in relation to potential variances in there. And again, the same information applies, doesn't it, for your large meal kits in here. And again, you can see that the average portion price in there does significantly decrease the more that you actually purchase. Okay, now notice where they talk about selling price. Can you see there that that is the full retail selling price? That doesn't necessarily mean that's what we sell them for. You'll have no doubt come across this in the real world. You know, if you guys have ever actually purchased any of these meal boxes, quite often these are really heavily discounted to try and encourage customers to actually, you know, get the hook to actually join the business and join the organization. Quite often you'll find that these are heavily discounted from the get-go, which will be applied to maybe the first, second, third, fourth actual purchase in there. Hence the reason why we might have been loss-making up to this point whilst we established ourselves as an organisation. Now, with reference to this then, as we know, we as an organisation need to make sure that we are keeping ahead of the game. We constantly develop new recipes. We constantly revise our existing recipes in here. Recipe rotation is absolutely key, because at the end of the day, we need to keep ourselves fresh as an organisation, don't we? So we need to make sure that we're always giving our consumers something new in here. We've already talked about the fact that we don't have vegan recipes as yet. And again, we mention it in the pre-scene. I'm thinking opportunity in here. So creation of these new vegan meals then could present opportunity, but it could also present risks as well, because this is an area that we've not previously been involved in. Subscription service, as we said, brilliant from a predictive point of view. In terms of this then, membership is free in here. Again, that's because all the competitors are doing that. We need to consider how we keep these customers. And again, I keep saying about big data and digital costing in here, but surely there's something that we can do from an AI perspective in here. Now, again, the final part of this just repeats what we've gone through before. You know, meal kits need to be agreed 3 days in advance of delivery in there. And again, it's done through the company's website. Remember, our customers have got the right to pause this subscription at any point in time as well. This 3 days keeps rearing its head. What happens if they want to cancel, you know, 2 days before? Do they have that option in there? Okay. So moving on then, what happens if they forget? We already know this, don't we? If they forget, they will get sent a box based on their preferences in here, and they will be charged for it. Yeah, because they actually put the bank details onto the system. We need to be careful with that, I think, and we need to think about sort of revenue recognition with reference to this as well. How is that going to impact the customer service in here? How is that going to impact how our customers feel if we are constantly charging them for these products when actually they don't purchase them? Something to consider. And then finally, promotional discounts. We've talked about this already. Heavily discounted from the get-go in here. Typical 50% discount on the first box and then 30% for the next two. That's going to have a significant impact, isn't it, on the sort of selling price and the sort of profit associated with each of those boxes that we sell. That's the hook to get the customers in. We need to make sure that we're retaining them. I think that's the key thing. Right, production facility then, in a bit more detail in here. With reference to the production facility then, as we said, this is where we box everything up in terms of our products. Quite rightly, the facility itself is controlled in terms of temperature, because we are dealing with perishable goods in here. Think perishability, think inventory and valuation of inventory and losses in relation to inventory as well. So this is where we store, this is where we put all of our ingredients, this is where we pack everything, and this is where everything is assembled. Interestingly then, we've got 3 different categories in here. We've got long life goods, tins, that type of thing. You've got fresh goods, fresh veg, fresh fruit in there. We've also got chilled goods as well. Think IS2, think inventory, think about adjustments in relation to perishability. The other thing to think about is the process that they go through. Just in time, can that be used? Is that possible for things like your long life goods that you might have in there? Is it an option? How do we order our inventory? You know, think economic order quantity in here is what I would be considering. You know, do they use that process? You know, do they buy goods in bulk to take advantage of things like bulk buying discounts? You know, what's the process involved in here? Now, in terms of this then, as we can see, long life ingredients are going to be used in a lot of our recipes, and these are purchased in bulk. Yeah, so if they're purchased in bulk, we're going to be taking advantage of bulk buying discounts in here. The other thing that makes me think is that if we're buying in bulk, we're going to have a lot of inventory on hand at any point in time. Again, you've got to think about storage. You've got to think about the cost of holding that inventory. These are all things that we have to consider. Obviously, when it comes to the fresh ingredients and the chilled ingredients, they're purchased based on the meal selection in here. Again, it goes back to sustainability, it goes back to those credentials that we've got, because we want to minimize wastage in relation to this. So actually that might be a bit more of a just-in-time basis. So we wait and see what our customers want to purchase 3 days before. That gives us a bit of an indication as to why it's 3 days. And then we buy those ingredients from our customers. Now, interestingly, other items, so fresh herbs, spices, fruit and veg, they're received already pre-portioned from the supplier. That's quite interesting, isn't it? So we're relying on those suppliers providing us with those goods in pre-packaged, pre-proportioned items in there. Maybe that's something that we can think about maybe bringing in-house. Possibly that could make those cheaper, is what I'm thinking there. Interestingly then, with all of these items then, with dealing with inventory, we're dealing with the value of that inventory. Think about relevant costing in here. Do we use that process currently? Is that something that we can possibly consider for the future? Interestingly, suppliers, we're told that suppliers then have got payment terms of between 30 and 60 days. We do not want to be in a position where we are disgruntling those suppliers. We need to make sure that our supplier days are in line with that. We cannot be in a position where we're paying our suppliers late. Granted, obviously it has benefits from a cash flow perspective, but that's only short term. In the longer term, if we're in a situation where our suppliers are actually not being paid on time, then what they could do is put our account on stop. So we need to make sure that we're keeping them happy. We're creating and keeping that goodwill that Greta has been able to develop over the last few years. And we need to make sure that we're keeping them happy. At the end of the day, we are very heavily reliant on having these good relationships with our suppliers. Okay, so working capital is key. Relevant costing is key. Thinking about inventory management, thinking about just in time, thinking about economic order quantities in here. What do we do as an organisation, and where are the areas that we could improve? Okay, then finally, then I just want to mention about production processes today. It's a good idea for you to be familiar with these production processes, because in the exam you might find that there is potential changes associated with this. The other thing that's really important here, guys, is thinking about overheads. Yeah, how do our overheads get absorbed? Now, I think with this one, we've got a traditional approach in here, you know, total absorption costing. We maybe need to think about what they do and how they do that going forward, and thinking about changes in production processes, thinking about how they might absorb their overheads in a little different way. I'm thinking activity-based costing in here, guys. So, you know, that is an area that does come up quite often in exam questions. In terms of the three production processes, then we've got herbs and spices, we've got meal kit production, and we've got box packing in here as well. With reference to herbs and spices and also the meal kit bag production, it's quite heavily automated in here. As we know, then we purchase these in bulk, we take advantage of bulk buying discounts in here. In terms of the portions, they're portioned individually, as we know, to minimize wastage in here. And the meal kits then are sealed with biodegradable materials in here. Again, sustainability credentials are involved in here. As we know, this is very much automated. So using total absorption costing, you would anticipate that these overheads are absorbed using machine hours in here. If we was to switch that to activity-based costing, we need to think about the drivers that would be involved. Now, my thoughts initially in relation to this is that the driver would be the number of portions that we actually package in here. Secondly, then you've got your meal kit production, again, heavily automated in here. We've got an automated production line, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a long automated process in here, constant process. Again, makes sense with total absorption costing to absorb on the basis of machine hours in here. Automation in here is key. And then finally, you've got your box packing. Bit different, this one. Yeah, bit different. Box packing is very labor intensive. You can see largely a manual process in here. Can we change that? You know, is there something that we can do in here to actually improve that process, automate it, digitalize it, use robots, you know, in here, use AI if you possibly can to predict what these boxes are going to look like. Key thing here, guys, is it is labor orientated. Think to yourself that there's going to be a definitive amount of labor that we can use. So labor could quite easily be a limited resource in here that we're going to have to consider. So thinking about how you use that limited resource in here as well. So manual process, absorbing your overheads probably on the basis of labor hours in this particular area. How do we improve that? What can we do? Can we automate it? Can we use robotics? Can we use AI in this particular area? Okay. Right, that brings me to the end, really, of the areas that I'd like to cover with you today. So that's the first part of your pre-scene analysis. Leaving that there then for today, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to open this up to any questions that you might have. Now, I do appreciate, guys, that you might have already had some answers to any questions that you might have had going through, and Thomas might have answered those questions as you've been going through. But just in terms of the areas that we've just looked at, has anybody got any questions there that they might want to ask me today? So again, please feel free to pop those in the chat panel or in the Q&A panel in there if you've got any questions whatsoever. Now, this is quite unusual that there's no questions in there, so please do share any questions that you might have, being about the exam, thinking about meals at home. Any questions there, guys? Okay, that is quite unusual, but honestly, guys, any questions at all? You've got questions about the exam? Have you got questions about the pre-scene? Any questions about next steps? You know, what do you guys actually want with reference to that? Question there then that's just come up. Will you be given the case study in the exam? Yes, absolutely. You will be given the case study in the exam. You always have access to it. So on the exam screen itself, you can always click into the reference material. So you do get given a blank version of that pre-scene material. Now, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. By the time that you actually step into that exam, you will be all over this pre-scene, you know, so you probably won't need to access it because you will have gone through it. You will have actually looked at the detail in relation to this pre-scene. You'll have gone through, you'll have looked at the annotations that I've shared with you, and you'll have also done your own research as well. So the short answer is, yeah, you absolutely do get access to that in the exam. However, you probably won't need to use it. Okay, really good question. Thank you for that one. Any other questions there, guys? Remember, on exam day, you will be given some additional information in relation to this. So they will provide you with some extras on the day itself. Really good question there. So can the pre-scene analysis help forecast exam areas? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Hence the reason that we actually absorb ourselves in this pre-scene. And as you can see, as I was going through that, I was pointing out the key areas to really think about. So here, there's lots of talk of digitalization. I'm thinking digital costing all the time. There's lots of talk about possible expansion. So thinking about financing that expansion, thinking about non-current assets. So there is a lot of opportunities that we can actually draw from that pre-scene, which helps us to get a feeling for the types of questions you're going to get. You know, a biggie on this one is sustainability, isn't it? Lots on sustainability, definitely a key area that I'm going to consider. So brilliant. Thank you for that question in there. Can pre-scene analysis help forecast questions in the exam? We get a feel for those questions. Brilliant question. Thank you, guys. Any others there? Any other burning questions that you might have about the operational case study or about the pre-scene there? Okay. Right then, guys. Well, if you've got no questions at that point, I'd just like to say I hope you found that session quite useful going through that pre-scene analysis. Oh, another question. So the time for reading the unseen is incorporated into the answer time. It absolutely is. Yeah, it absolutely is included in your responses, in your answers in there. So on exam day, you get some additional information. It's like a story, you know, over exam day. So you've got each of these different tasks which sort of lead on from one another. And that additional reading, and don't get me wrong, it's nowhere near going to be as much as what's included in the pre-scene by any stretch of the imagination. So you're probably going to get a couple of paragraphs and you'll have to use that to answer your questions. So yeah, that's definitely included in your reading time. Oh, lovely question there. Can we expect a question about CGMA since the company is making a loss? Absolutely. And we get specific questions actually in relation to that. So make sure that you are comfortable with what CGMA actually says. Remember, you've got that costing model that has actually been presented by CGMA. So do make sure that you are all over that. You are very, very familiar with the content of that. Lovely question. Thank you for that. Very, very practical. I like the way you're thinking already in relation to these questions. So yeah, absolutely, Makita. Please do make sure that you are comfortable with the content of the cost control model in there. Got a question there about whether or not these sessions are actually available. I'm not 100% sure on the practicalities associated with that. Thomas might be able to confirm the availability, but I do know that with any of the Viva programs that you might be joining, this is readily available for you in terms of recording. Okay, so as I said then, that's your first insight into meals at home. As I said, please do fully immerse yourself in this organisation. Do make sure that you are reviewing the content in there as well. Not sure what the question, so can this company overtake a training session? Not sure on that question there. If you just want to clarify that for me, that would be useful. Okay, have you found today's session useful? It's always nice for me to gauge that that you guys are on board with this. If you can just give me the virtual thumbs up or a virtual nod there, just to make sure that you're comfortable with the content that we've gone through so far. And if you can just let me know that you're comfortable with what we've looked at there, and I'll hopefully see you on some of our future sessions. Thank you, Michelle. Nice to see a big thumbs up in there. And as I said, hopefully I'll get to know you guys a little bit more over some of the remaining sessions for those of you that are going to be joining our Viva programs. Okay then, chaps, it has been an absolute pleasure. Go and enjoy what is left of your day. I'm not sure whether Thomas has got anything to add at the end of that session. Oh, lovely, superb, great. It's been a pleasure, it really has. And I'm quite passionate, as you can probably tell, regarding the operational case study. So I'm here then to support any of you as you're going through. Thank you. That's brilliant. Nice to meet you all, albeit virtually. And I look forward to seeing you again on some of our future programs. Okay, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys. See you soon. Take care. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.